I remember when I was a young kid, it felt like there was very real danger. And in a sense, as a child, being in complete dependence on parents, it is real danger. I remember my parents used to threaten things like kicking me out, sending me places, and it created real fear. And I recall just constantly having to scan the outside world in the house in order to protect myself from these volatile people. I was very uncomfortable being in my body, and I got used to that. There was always anxiety and fear and lots of things that I just didn't know. I didn't know that these things were there to be felt. I didn't know that this was nature's way of keeping you alive. I just found a solution that I wasn't even aware of. The solution being that I was in the outside world. My consciousness was never in my body fully. I was just constantly trying to protect myself by being in the outside world. And of course, there are very important reasons for this. You could argue that there are many places in life where this is incredibly important. Survival situations being the number one. And having grown up in a survival situation and not having any guidance or support in order to learn how to deal with the associated emotions, I was completely lost. My answer, I mean, if we go hunting, for example, we ignore how we feel and we focus on the outside world until we reach success. But then there comes a time when you need to process what you went through. You can't just stuff it down forever. But I did. I stuffed it all down. My answer was to escape myself by constantly being in the outside world, constantly analyzing the outside world, which is interesting because it's using your mind in order to try to understand the outside world, but it's still not being in the body. It's being in a artificial representation. That obsessive analytical thinking. It's a reaction, right? So I lived just constantly being aware of everything that was going on around me, never being inside the body. There was never any end to this. I didn't know it could end. Then I found things in the outside world. So I found that if I was good, or if I was smart, or if I just did the right thing, then I would get things in the outside world. Teachers would be nice to me. I started trying to make people be nice to me. I wasn't very aware of it at that age, and I didn't have the social skills to really understand. But one of the things that I found was skills like classical music. I developed these skills with instruments that impressed the hell out of people. So I lived, again, ignoring myself, trying to get things from people, trying to get them to make me feel better, right? This continued to high school, chasing girls, chasing people. I then started to form a personality. It became very artificial. I was very scared of people disapproving of me because, of course, I would feel bad. So I developed a personality that was a reaction to the outside world that I thought they wanted to prevent having to face myself, my own pain. It's all artificial. I then went to university, started to do a ton of drugs. Drugs literally is getting the outside world and putting it inside you and allowing it to change you. There's nothing more accurate in terms of what I'm trying to express than that. It's so clear that it can never work, right? Fixing an inner problem using the outer. And then it kept going. Travel, career, money, skills. Always basing everything I do on how it's going to look or how it can bring me more attention or validation. This is rife within our society, right? So it kept going, and there's been no end to it. I found spirituality and meditation, and even that became me trying to attain something, get to this place so it would finally be validated. It all falls down. All of it. I had the lucky experience of being able to have nothing. I had money and I didn't have to work. I had no place to live. I just traveled. It was not freedom. It was again me, in some sense, trying to destroy myself. Then I had the lucky experience of coming back to the same life that I had before, realizing that it didn't work last time and it's not going to work this time. It all falls down. All of it just stops working. A really good analogy is homelessness. I had a friend once. We were very good friends. We stopped talking eventually. But we did a lot of drugs together when I was younger. I didn't see him for a long time. Actually, no, I did see him after a while. He was good. But then I didn't see him for a long time, maybe 5-10 years. And then he was homeless. Mental illness. Very serious, and he still is homeless. Very painful experience. But in a sense, we all do it. It's so painful in our bodies that we live out there. We are always out there. And if a homeless person has so much pain at home, in houses, working with people, getting along with people, then they live outside. And we all are doing that. We're all homeless, right? We have a home. We just have forgotten it. We were home. before all this pain. That's where we lived when we were very young. We didn't know anything else. So what can we do? I have ideas, but I'm not going to pretend to be anything I'm not, even though I'd like to. I'm only on the very fringes of some aspect of healing, but what I know is that it gets a lot worse before it gets better. The very practical ways to look at this is simply the most obvious thing, which is to bring our energy back. When we're with people or walking around or whatever it is at home, there's so many things in this world that want to capture you, take you away from being home. The entire internet seems like it's designed to take you away from home. Money, job, socializing, friendships, all of this stuff. It's not bad. It just capitalizes on our need to not be at home. So bring the energy away from these things and just breathe. Maybe breathing feels very bad, and I know it does for me sometimes. There's a lot of pain in my body, in my chest, in my stomach, tension. Find a place in the body that's not pain. We rarely hold trauma and repression in our legs. So if you focus on, say, a part of your leg, your thigh, your knee, foot, whatever, you could focus on the connection between the foot and the ground, the sensation there. Breathe through it. And just see if you can find a place in the body that feels okay. And just try to stay there. But this obviously isn't a permanent solution. And the only permanent solution that I can think of is we have to live out the pain that we haven't lived out. We have to live in chaos in order to fix chaos. It's the one thing we don't want to do. It's the one thing we didn't know how to do when all this mess started when we were little. No one knew. Everyone was unconscious, so now we are. So we have to come and enter the pain in your chest, your heart, your stomach. We go into it. And we have to experiment because everyone is so different. There are heaps of ways we have to experiment. We remain conscious and breathe through the sensation. We use thoughts. We find the thoughts that are buried inside the sensation. We can try to do the opposite. If you don't want something there, tell it that you love it. Tell the sensation that you love it and you forgive it. Or if you feel uncomfortable with resistance or not liking the sensation, hate it. Give it all the hate that you can. If you want something to go, try to make it stay, and vice versa. If something's moving, follow it. If something is staying still, try to move it. there are just all these different ways that we can try to enter into the body. The only thing that ever really made a huge difference for me that I can really vouch for is grieving. And it took me a long time to learn how to do it because I was very scared of it. I have other videos on it. But when I was older, I realized that I had an issue with it and I needed to fix this issue. So I spent a lot of time grieving, I think, a lot of things that happened that I never did. Grieving a childhood that I never felt like I had. There was a lot of stuff in there. It did help. But I'm not going to lie, things got worse after it. I don't know if my awareness increased or if it's just another layer, or I don't know. But when you screw around with this stuff, you're playing with fire. So be aware of that. I can only see that one answer to our problem. The other one just doesn't work. You can see the end results of the other answer. People like, I guess you could see it in rich and famous people. I don't think they're happy. So let's make a pact, a plan to try to come home. Even though home is violent, it's painful, it's chaos, it's confusing, it's scary, it's full of shame and fear and regret and guilt. Just pain upon pain. It is an abusive, violent place. It is the worst place that you can imagine. It is the number one place that you never want to go. But we have to go there. No pain, no gain, right? Thanks, guys.